Killer Relationships with Faith Jenkins premieres Saturday, August 17th on Oxygen True Crime. And joining me now is host and producer of the show, Faith Jenkins. Faith, excited to speak with you. How are things?
Thank you so much. Things are great. I'm excited about the season premiere.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of set this show up for me a little bit for people that haven't yet tuned in. I know this is season 3, but kind of just give me an idea of what this show is, how it works.
Well, it's all about relationships and these relationships that are built on love and trust and a bond that's taken place over time, whether it's a spousal relationship, significant other. And this season, we're expanding. It could be colleagues, co-workers, friends. So you have the foundation of this relationship, and then you have what happens when that love, when that bond, when that trust turns deadly. And oftentimes people go through breakups. There's a divorce. People are walking away, but someone makes a choice. I'm deciding I'm not going to just walk away from this relationship. Someone has to die, and we want to know why. Why do people choose to commit the unimaginable acts that they do? We want to get insight into the criminal mind. We want to walk their viewers through the investigation, take them through the investigation, and then in the end, we want to show how a person was held accountable and that there were consequences for their actions.
Yeah, I love that you get the full spectrum here, kind of start to finish, if you will, of these specific stories that you're highlighting. Now, speaking of, unfortunately, there are a lot of situations and stories that could be told, kind of involving these themes that you're covering. So, how do you and your team kind of go about deciding which stories to highlight and ultimately showcase?
These stories, I will tell you, they are some of the most shocking and heartbreaking and compelling stories that we came across in months of researching cases. So each episode stands on its own in terms of the level of investigation and who did it and why. And something that's very important to us, and I want viewers to know and understand this, we don't tell any story or do any case on the show without the blessing of the victim's family. That's very important to us. If people don't want the story of their loved one told because they may not want to relive it on national television every time it airs, we respect that. But then you have the other side of it, people who say, we don't want our loved one to be known by the way, not just by the way they died, but how they lived. So we want to get this story out. We want to share about who they were and what an impact they had on the lives in the community. So that's the first step. We look for families who want to participate and be a part of the show. Second, viewers like the investigation. They like to look at those witness interviews, perpetrator interviews, because you get a live look in and you're watching for yourself. Is this person telling the truth? Are they coming across as believable? Are they someone that you can trust? So they're making these decisions while they're watching the show. And number three, we look for cases where there's some kind of closure, meaning someone was held accountable for the actions that they took. And if I could just add a fourth thing, I also think we look for cases where people are surprised by the actions that the perpetrator took. The first episode involves a professor and a high school teacher. The episodes involve stay at home parents. There could be coaches, um, all aspects, all different walks of life, but no one is immune to violence at certain times when people just decide to snap. And that's another one of the underlying themes of the show.
Yeah, and I love that piece that no one's immune to it because I think that really is important, something we should talk about more. So, without giving anything away, of course, there's so many kind of incredible and kind of a weird way stories that you're telling. So, any specific story that stood out to you that you guys are featuring?
Again, this season, I think that all 13 of these cases are cases that people should know about. They should be aware of them. There are things that you can learn from these cases, the patterns, the red flags, the actions, and in some cases, just that somebody snapped. But what causes someone to snap? We look at that. But there is one that stood out to me because the setup for the crime, I thought, was a really cold-hearted. There was a family party, and that party was really an alibi for the killer. So they set it up. They knew that this would be this person's last meal, their last drink, their last time spending time with their family and friends because it was premeditated that they would kill them a half hour later after that party. So even Oprah tweeted about this story because it was so compelling. It made national news. That's one of the stories that we tell on the show this season. And just the cold hearted nature of that kind of premeditation for a family member is really disturbing.
Oh my gosh. Well, that is incredible. I mean, listen, if Oprah brought attention to it, then you know it's a big deal. So, my final question for you, you kind of addressed this a little bit already, but what's kind of your hope, as someone who's very integral in the show, what's your hope that the audiences are going to take away or maybe get out of watching this series?
I think that, when you watch the news these days, you see so much injustice and you hear about so many crimes that go unsolved in cold cases. With this series, each episode you watch, there is that bit of closure because we did choose cases where someone is held accountable in the end and there is adjudication. There's never, I always say there's never any real justice because you can't get someone's life back. That would be the only true justice, but there is accountability. And so when you watch, you sort of go through a range of emotions throughout the episode because you have the highs of when you have family and friends, when you have the close connection that people have on the show, they know not only the victim, but they also know the perpetrator. So you hear their thoughts about both of those individuals from the very beginning and what they thought in the very end as well.
Oh, again, I just love this like full circle how you guys are giving all elements of the story. I think this is gonna be a really cool show for a lot of people to check out, especially if you're a true crime fan. So, Faith, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me. Killer Relationships with Faith Jenkins this Saturday on Oxygen True Crime. It was a pleasure talking to you, Faith.